getting messages from parents that have saying, thanks for helping my kids. So a few things that I do that are doing good out there and getting a good response. So. Have we started?
Yeah, it started.
Oh, is this it?
Well, no, we just talk and then fucking I'll edit it away.
I thought
No, it just started like, I reckon a minute ago.
Oh, really? Well, I started footy late. I think it was about when I was 15. I think I played 1 year in under nines. I wanted to be a basketballer. I mean, you wanted to be a cricketer. I wanted to be a basketballer. NBA was my dream. Michael Jordan. And it got to about, I think, under 16. I tried out for the rep side and made it nearly to the last section and then got cut. And then my brother's like, just play footy with me. And, I was a lot better suited to footy. I think basketball, I kept on getting ejected out of the stadiums and getting fouled off all the time. I was a bit of a rough basketballer. So, started footy late and just sort of worked my way up to the Falcons. Played a senior premiership with my brother, 97, South Colac Kangaroos. And wasn't expecting, didn't have any aspirations to play AFL. It was, I got invited to the Falcons. They said, look, you're probably not going to make it into the Falcons because you're not very skillful. But you can keep trying out. And then I think the last practice match, I had 18 tackles and the coach just put me in just purely on effort. And then sat on the bench all year, and I think it was a couple of weeks before the finals. He said, "Bakes, we love your tenacity when you actually get on the ground, but you can't kick. But can you tag someone?" I said, "What's that?" I wasn't a footy fan. I didn't really know what it was. Well, there's a player getting 40 possessions. Can you just stop this kid? And I went out there and gave him a whole bit of dirty tactics behind play, and he had a couple of touches and. Then it was all of a sudden finals. I'm playing in the finals with the Geelong Falcons. Stopped another man the next week in the first week of the finals, and then it's grand final day on the MCG. So it all happened really fast, and it then tagged on the grand final. I had an undercut and a ponytail. I was a little rough unit, and it just so happened that the St Kilda recruiter John Beveridge was in the stands. He was probably there to watch the man I was playing on, and who's this little wanker with an undercut and a ponytail keeps getting the ball? And I just had one of those games where every time my man got the ball, I smashed him, and the ball was in my hand. I handballed. I think I had probably 20 handballs or something. I was too scared to kick it because my skills were real shit. But so it was a whirlwind, and St Kilda at the time needed a tagger, so it was the right place, right time. Not sort of giving up on the Falcons and grinding it out, and got the call up. I think I was hungover on the couch and not expecting. I had a few mates out. My brother goes, "Imagine if you got drafted." It'd be so funny. And I was asleep, and I just remember waking up and to an eruption. My family's running in, and I looked up and I saw my name on the TV, thinking I was dreaming. "You're going to St Kilda," and I was like, "What?" And the phone's ringing, and Tim Watson's on the phone, and it was like, I'm getting sort of goosebumps thinking about it. And Tim Watson's on the phone. I'm thinking it's a mate having a prank, and it was like, am I freaking dreaming here? And it was, so it all happened very fast. So, no dreams of playing AFL as a kid. It just happened.
So how does it go from like dreaming to play basketball to then like going, did you give up on basketball? It was like, not going to happen, and I'm just going to play for fun, or like what changed for you?
Yeah, I think after the under 16s, I got down to the final cut for the Vic side, and I thought if I can't make the Vic side, I'm not going to make the NBL, and then the NBA, the dream. So then my brother got me playing footy. I think I played 1 year in under 17s, and then the next year in the seniors as a young fella. I think I was 16 when we won the senior premiership together. I just loved playing with my brother. I always wanted to make him proud. He was 2 years older, and just playing in that flag in '97, it was just a great feeling. And I think I played really good in the grand final, which got me the invite to the Geelong Falcons. Fluked a couple of goals, never kicked goals. I got 2 goals in the grand final. And
you kicked 30 on your career, didn't you?
Yeah, I think it was 36, 2 a year for 12 years. So averaged out. But so it was a bit of a whirlwind. But never wanted to play footy, and then all of a sudden I'm running next to Robert Harvey and a few footy legends, and it was a bit of a weird feeling early.
That's there's a lot of people that do like work that they didn't expect to do and they end up loving it. Yeah. Did you end up loving footy and just stuck it out, or was it like, this is my career now, I'm making good coin, fuck it, why not?
Well, to be honest, I just thought I'd last the 2 years. I think I had a when I got drafted, I was working at a timber mill 8 to 5 nightmare of a job. And I was going down to Falcons training twice a week, just an angry little man. So I thought, I've got 2 years of just relaxing. I can get my $50,000 a year, I think it was back in the day. I'm thinking, geez, I didn't make that in a whole year at the timber mill. So I literally thought I fluked my way in. I'll have 2 years of playing footy, having a bit of fun, and got my chance. I think it was in the second year, and got a tagging job on Gary Hocking, who just walked up to me and just whacked me right in the nose, broke my nose, eyes watering.
He was ex-Geelong, wasn't he?
Yeah, Geelong. Yeah. He was my first tagging role, and that was I remember him saying, "Welcome to the AFL." I was like, and I thought I was a little tough unit, and he just made me look like, threw me around like a rag doll. And I won the battle, kicked 2 goals in the first main tagging role, and then slowly made my way and got another contract, which I was. I played the last 7 games, I think, in the second season, and then sort of cemented my side, and just sort of grew and became best mates with Lenny Hayes. My professionalism was not great when I first started, still partying on weekends, and he really lifted my career, being best mates with him, learning about professionalism and how to look after the body. Still wasn't the greatest at it, but learnt and cemented the spot in the side.
You reckon in AFL now they've gone too much the other way? Like they don't know how to have... Like, don't get me wrong, there's always the edge cases where the boys are getting busted on social media, right?
Yep.
But do you feel like there's a level of fakeness now with everyone that's in the AFL because they're walking on eggshells? Or do you find that they can...
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just watching interviews and I'm watching everyone, and everyone's just the exact
same old shit.
Same shit.
Like I had a media ban back in the day, like because I would always just speak my mind and say,
"Oh, the camera's on." Fuck.
I can't say it. So Ross lies like, maybe you better not talk to the media. I think Grant Thomas was the same. Maybe stay away. But I think footy is just some of the rules, like even the sliding in and taking the legs out. That was one rule, just to save maybe one knee every 5 years. The push in the back, chopping the arms. Like if I couldn't do that back in the day as a backline player, you were allowed to chop their arms, and it seems to have gotten softer and softer. And I know you've got to protect the people with the concussions and things, but when you see 2 players going in and they're both scared to go in hard, and people are pulling up, I think it's ruined the sort of fabric. And recently the reports of the guy diving for a tackle and the guy hit his head on the ground. I can't remember the names of the players, but I think there was 3 tackles that got 3 weeks in, and it was just, I'm thinking, that's a disgrace. You're diving and desperate tackle, which you're taught as a kid. Desperation, fighting your fingernails, and then all of a sudden you're diving for a tackle and you're getting 3 weeks. It's like, you have that in your mind when you're chasing.
It's hard to
someone.
watch when that's the case. It'd be harder to play. Do you know any of the boys that are currently playing, and what without saying who they are, what their feelings are towards all the rules?
No, I don't really talk to many of the boys now. All my old mates have stopped playing. I'm getting old, 44 now. It's like stop. Likewise, we're units. But I don't really talk to the boys, but just the general feeling about it, like even talking to my old teammates, like, look at this game, where the game's gone. Even the stand on the mark, and you can't move sideways. All these weird rules they're bringing in, I think, sort of ruined the game a little bit. Yeah. But they're getting record crowds, so it's like fans don't seem to mind it.
Is that just because we've had more people move to certain states, or
I don't know why. I thought, I'm thinking the game's been ruined, but they're still getting record crowds. So
I wonder if they're getting a record number of people still watching the game though. That'd be interesting. I don't know that stat.
Oh yeah, no.
There you go.
I don't know. Someone will check out after the episode.
Mate, I normally, when I get people on this podcast, I ask them a question to sort of like get it kick-started. We've just been talking for 20 minutes, which I love, so we'll fucking
kick it. You haven't asked me anybody hard-hitting ones yet.
Nah, but the one I normally ask most blokes is, let's say TED Talks asked you, Stephen Baker, to go and do a presentation. Yep. They said, AFL player, done a fair bit in your life. What is it that you can help a bunch of men that are listening to learn about based off your previous experience and your expertise, or what you like talking about? And one of the things that you spoke about, which makes sense based off your business, was how to build grit and move through adversity. So what about what you've done in your career or your personal life allows you to talk about something like that?
Well, I think in my talks I talk about resilience, battling adversity, and recently losing a best mate, Warne. And earlier, after losing footy, and I lost my old man, and I went through some dark times back then and recently. So going through depression after losing my mate Warne for 6 or 12 months. And then sort of fighting my way out of it, and then looking back on lessons I suppose I learnt from both times, going through sort of traumatic experiences, losing loved ones. And there was themes, and it was happiness, being around people. So grit stands for gratitude, resilience, inspiration, and teamwork. So it was being grateful for what you've got, not waiting till you've lost something until you've appreciated it. Resilience. When I lost Warne, and then I got asked to speak about it months later at a homeless shelter, and shared my story. I was terrible, cried on stage, went for like 20 minutes, but got a standing ovation. I think there was only like 15, 20 people there, and it was just good getting it off my chest, I suppose. I locked myself in my room, got hooked on sleeping tablets and painkillers, and didn't want to socialise for 6 or 12 months. So I think sharing my story snapped me out of that. And I got a few nice messages after that meeting saying, thanks, you've given me some inspiration. I'm going to go for a walk tomorrow. I'm going to snap out of my own rut. And some of the stories I've heard by sharing my story, sort of make my story. Now, I won't say look pale in comparison, but I think everyone's going through their own shit. Everyone's battled adversity, or everyone's going to battle adversity. So my talk it's one, encouraging people to speak up. I was known as the rough footy player that's rough and tough. So me sharing my story hopefully I know it's getting other people to put their hand up and say they're struggling, and then leave strategies at the end of my talks that people can take away and use. So I use morning routine for my resilience, so gratitudes. A few strategies I use, writing 3 things you're grateful for every night before bed. It keeps your mind, and that's been proven in science to help you sleep better, depression, anxiety. Resilience, I use morning routine. My body's hacked at the moment, so I can't do, recently I've done an Ironman. After Warne passed, I got through the Ironman, and that really switched up my brain and mindset to think I can get through hard things, and learning that there's a correlation between getting through hard things physically and mentally, and reading a lot of books, mostly audio books, about Angela Duckworth, Grit. I read that book and I thought, that's got some great things, and just learning along the journey and what's helped me. And gratitude's a big one now. Resilience, doing my morning routine. This morning, made my bed, had my lemon water, did my sit-ups. You made me walk 11 minutes to this bloody place. So morning routine, I can't do crazy things much anymore because my body is falling to pieces, but just doing that morning routine builds resilience in my mind. So I teach people about that, and inspiration. I try and feed my mind with good things in the morning. Read 10 pages of a non-fictional book, something inspirational, and then teamwork. So if you're struggling, sharing the word of put your hand up and say you're struggling. I know when I lost my old man, we had years of dark times and long weekends that went for three days, and so looking back on what helped me through that is surrounding yourself with good people, and being grateful for what you've got, because there's a lot of other people in sort of worse situations. So that's the thing. It was probably a long answer to your question, but
obviously adversity and losing a loved one, a best mate, finishing a career as well. I think people don't really understand what that means. It's something that you've attached your identity to for 12 years of playing AFL footy, and then to stop that and then go into another part of your life. They'll be interesting to see what happens with a guy like Dustin Martin, who won't go into media.
Yeah, he doesn't like the talking.
Doesn't like
very
the talking.
Humble.
Humble.
Very humble man.
But what's he gonna do? What's he attach his identity to? So I'd love to maybe, if it's okay, delve into a couple of those things. I've had a guest recently come on talk about loss. How do you there's no easy way to move through loss, but if you had loss happen again, based off what you've gone through with your best mate and your old man, is there something that you would do now, knowing how it affects you versus when it happened previously?
Yeah, I think the main thing is talking about it. I think a lot of guys especially are try and hide that they're struggling. Or I know when the old man was sick, he didn't want to tell his kids that he was sick. Us bakers like to be tough, and so I lost footy, which was lost a little bit of identity, and I didn't mind the going out on the weekends and letting the hair down a bit, but then months later playing footy at a local league, I went from playing AFL with passionate people to a team, Craigieburn, no offence to Craigieburn, but we didn't win a game, and it was sort of more about the partying on the weekends, which I honestly didn't mind. But then when you see the old man, he's on the sidelines with his eyes aren't lit up like they were watching your place in Kilda, and he's got the oxygen things in his nose, and, what's wrong, Dad? Oh, nothing, Steve, I'm right. And then a week later, you're holding his hand, watching him take his last breath. So I went from footy, having a bit of fun, to losing your dad, and then it was a big downward spiral. So I think the main message, putting your hand up and say you're struggling. So I know it was probably a couple of years partying on weekends, and I look back at a few photos back in the day, and you haven't slept for 3 days, and then you're taking sleeping tablets, or whatever I was doing back in the day. So looking back, especially after losing Warne, and just sort of, there was still months, 6-9 months I think, until I sort of snapped out of that and went, what helped me back then? And it was surrounding yourself with good people and challenging myself physically. Back in the day, I did the toughest of tough mud. It was a 24-hour race, and I remember looking back at that thinking, geez, that was a couple of years after Dad passed, but after that I got my mindset back, and I started, I built an online business and started surrounding myself with good people again. So I think the first thing, if you're lost, is speaking up, saying you're struggling, not bottling it in, not hiding out like I was, for 6 months, not wanting to socialise with anyone, and having some strategies. So my grit strategies, for example, are things that I know after I had a boxing fight a month ago,
which you won, yeah.
I wish I did win, yeah. Sorry, Brady. But I think I've got a bit of an addictive personality, so I thought I needed something big to aim for. The Ironman last year, the boxing fight. But then after the boxing fight, it was like all this build-up, and I got on. I hadn't drank for a couple of weeks, and went out with my brother and mates, had a great night. But then I just felt depressed for 2 weeks because all the build-up was gone. So it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks later, I went through a bit of downwards moments and not wanting to get out of bed, and I thought, I need to snap out of this shit. I've got to get back to my strategies, and it was just, I'm listening to an audio book called The Slight Edge now, and it's all about just simple routines daily, and just, so I snapped out and said, okay, tomorrow I'm getting up at 6 a.m. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go for a walk, getting back into my grit strategies. So now when I'm struggling, instead of taking weeks or years to snap out of it, I know, okay, I've got to get back to what makes me happy, gratitude and being around good people, and setting goals. They don't have to be big goals. It's just, okay, I'm going to do 30 days of exercise. That was my recent goal that I've set. So, little things, but there's been a few similarities with what's got me out of some dark times.
All those things that you mentioned, like gratitude and good people and all of that, a lot of people don't realise how much they need to do that stuff until shit hits the fan. Like, people will be like, I don't need to do a fucking gratitude journal. Like, what a wank. Yeah? Which would probably have been, both of us in our 20s would have been like, fuck off. Like, I'm sweet, yeah? But it's also understanding that, like, setting the patterns early allows you to handle the problems later. Yeah. And that sounds like something that if you're listening and even if you are okay and you haven't had adversity yet, it's coming. It's going to come at some. It's going to come at some point, right? Yeah. And so then, obviously, Warnie's passing was a international event, but it's very, very close to you. Yeah. So, you're realizing that you're going through a lot, but it's much bigger than yourself. But it's still you. Yeah. Yeah. How do you go about dealing with that? Because it's the same as like someone you care about passing away. But there's all this other, I guess, commotion going around the person, and you don't want to make it about yourself. Yeah. So how do you deal with that? Because it's like, is it hard to talk to your mates and go, I'm struggling?
Yeah, it definitely was. Like as I said, it was like probably 9 months. It was till New Year's. His son Jackson, who I'm really good friends with, he invited me to a New Year's party that year. And it was probably the first New Year's I hadn't spent without Shane. We'd have a New Year's party every year and have a great time. It was probably a decade of party. And then it was like, I've been on the couch for like 6 months and hadn't left home much. And then Jackson's invited me to New Year's, and I went down there, and I remember crying at like 12 o'clock, and Jackson's come and give me a big hug, and I snuck out of the party and went back to a mate's house, and I got locked out, and I was like sleeping outside. This was in Sorrento, and I remember waking up that morning. I was just so depressed, and just wanted to get home. And my mate was Troy Swartz, who locked me outside. He helped, and I walked over to get into my car. I said, "Mate, I just want to go home. Give me my fucking keys. I'm going." Walked over, my car's got a flat tire, and I was like, "Oh fuck, what the shit?" So my mate swore to help me change the tire, and I was just driving home. I remember just feeling so low, and I remember a truck coming. I think, I don't even care if this truck hits me. I didn't ever think I'm going to run into the truck or anything, but I'm just thinking, I don't care if this truck hits me today. But then something snapped. I got home. I remember, Jackson had he'd sort of used his dad's death as a springboard, I suppose, to live a healthier life, live happier, do the things that lit him up. And I was the other way. I was not really leading by example. I was misery, having a pity party. I've had all these operations. I've lost my best mate. So I was just thought in my head, if Shane could see me now, I was like, he'd be shattered with what I'm doing. I'm got to start living life. So I called a mate, Matty Ferguson. I said, "Mate, I'm struggling." He was going through some shit at the time, and we just both had a catch up. I think we were catching up for a coffee. Had about 15 vodka sodas, and and then he goes, "I'm gonna, we're going for a run," and he turned up on my doorstep, a couple of days later, and I said, "I can't run it. I've had a hip replacement," and I'm making all these excuses, and so I put my hand up and said I was struggling, but then I still didn't want to accept the help. But we ended up going for a run, which was meant to be 2 kilometres, and ended up being like a 10-kilometre run. It started pissing rain. We started yelling, motivational quotes at each other, and it just did something to my brain. And then him and his other mate, Ryan Butner, were signed up to do a half Ironman. And then the next day, I just signed up for it and went, stuff it. We got through the half Ironman, and I don't like to do things in halves. I'm going to do an Ironman by the end of the year, and then signed up for the Ironman the end of last year. And then all of a sudden, it's gone from struggling, getting on the couch, not wanting to get out of bed, to okay, put my hand up, say I'm struggling, to we're going for a run, booking in for an event, and then it just totally changed my life. Got through the Ironman, got invited to do a talk. I hate public speaking with a passion. I shit myself. The first talk, I cried. I didn't get much out, but a few people in the crowd, I touched them, and it felt nice. But I said, I'm never doing that again. And then a couple of weeks later, someone offered me $1,000. So I said, I'll do one more, and that's it. And then I did another one, and I just kept on getting referrals. And I sort of started. I felt nice because I got a lot of nice messages, and people sort of came out and said, "Bakes, I've been struggling." I had a friend that said he's suicidal, which I would never have expected. So it sort of felt nice. I sort of feel like I've got an obligation to keep going with, the public speaking, even though I don't like it. I'm getting slightly better at it. I'm still get nervous and get sweaty, but it's been a ride, I suppose, in the 6 months going from not wanting to wake up, from asking for support to sitting here doing a podcast. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind journey.
And then, so what stage did you decide to start your business then? Because it sounds like obviously all that stuff happened. Then you got helped with your mates getting fit again, getting your mindset right.
Yeah.
When did you decide that you'd start, build grit as the business?
Yeah, I think it started just with one referral, and it was another.
So it's purely motivational speaking, or is there other components to it as well?
It was mainly just telling the story which I've told tonight, was losing loved ones, and the first time I just spoke about Dad and Warne, and it wasn't about really how I got out of it because I was still in it. It was just sharing my story, and then, can you speak at this place? Can you speak at that place? I said, oh no, and I thought, I don't mind making a buck, so I'll do one more. And then putting the presentation together was funny. I sat down and said, I've actually got to do a presentation and get a slideshow. My sister helped me with that, and another friend. And I was asking Mum, was I a resilient kid? And in my presentation, I talk about, I was always the shortest kid in class. I was born with severe asthma, eczema, in hospital. And so Mum explaining what I went through as a kid sort of made sense why I was a bit more of a gritty kid, and I didn't want to give up. And my report card was all A for effort, but all average. And Mum found a few old report cards. So, I gathered a few stories that Mum, put together. She said, "Oh, do you remember when you came home crying and you never cried as a kid and you said you were the arse end of the dragon," which meant we had a costume. Meant I was the shortest kid in the class, and Mum's crying, telling me the story. I said, "Oh, that's right. I'll put a picture of one of those Chinese dragons in my presentation." That gets a laugh from the crowd. And so I add a bit of humour in there and tell a few childhood stories. So when I talk to schools or kids, it's all about effort being more important than talent. So I talk about not having much skill as a footy player, but not giving up, sticking it out, not giving up on the Falcons, getting picked in that last day when I got all those tackles, and could have given up Falcons many times, sitting on the bench for 18 weeks. I nearly did give up. My dad talked me out of it. But the message is never give up, motivation, even though the lowest points can be a catapult to something special.
So what's next for you then? So obviously, like, you've gotten yourself to a stage where, like, public speaking is the biggest fear besides dying.
Yeah, I heard that.
And you're doing it, right? So I mean, what's the next stage look like for you? Because quite often we see people that have, once they've finished footy, they'll go and work in media, or some of them will, build some investments. But for yourself, it sounds like this is, a bit more of a driver and a purpose and a passion. Yeah. So is there something that you're looking to do with, now that you're being in the limelight, for building grit, that you'd hope to do moving forward? Yeah,
well, I think the grit will be like I followed the Resilience Project. They started out with
you.
And it was a great story. I listened to the podcast when I was in the gym one day, and just what they've done. They've spread out. They've talked to schools, sharing the message of resilience, and gratitude is one of their things as well. So I've sort of gathered information from a few different things. So I love talking to schools and love working with kids. I've written a children's book recently about bullying. Yeah, not many people know about that. I haven't launched or released that yet. So I've got an illustrator that's doing. I think it's about a bully. Actually, I can't mention it because I haven't actually got the courage yet. But yeah, written a children's book. So I don't know where Build Grit's going to go, but I know I sort of want to expand. I want to scale the business up and just do some good. I just love the one person that says, "Oh, you've helped me do this." And after my grit talks, I do a grit talk at a footy club, and I'll challenge the kids to do a run in the morning, or do a cold shower when they get up, or jump in the pool, and getting messages from parents that have saying, "Thanks for helping my kids." Got a beautiful message today from a lady that their kids have got. I've got grit bands that they wear, and when they complain, they've got to swap arms and see how many times they swap arms during the day. So a few things that I do that are doing good out there and getting a good response. So I don't know where it's going to go. The public speaking, I hope to wind down and maybe do one a month. But it's good. It's I'm getting better at it, I suppose, and that's half the message. Doing things that you're fearful of, that you're scared of, I suppose, and inspire others to do things that scare them.
Yeah, nice. Is there any other boys at the moment that you're watching in the space besides Hugh that are doing good stuff, and maybe even some of the fellas in the AFL that you've seen do something similar to yourself that you like?
Yeah, I saw Wayne Swass. He's been doing a lot in the same space.
John Quinn has as well. He's been doing a bit of stuff. He was ex strength and conditioning coach for like Essendon when Bruce Reid was there, and then at GWS.
Yep. No, there was a few. There was one that spoke before me, and I said, "Oh, was he any good?" He goes, "Yeah, he was really good." Oh shit! Out of school. Oh, who was? I can't remember his name. But yeah, there's been a few that I've followed, and it's just a lot. There's a lot of once you start following a few guys, the other guys will pop up. So I'm learning a bit off everything because I'm still looking for ways. Like I'm still going. I have my bad days and good days. So it's still a roller coaster. I'm not 100% through. I still feel shit occasionally. Like the boxing fight was a month ago, and I went through a downwards spiral for about 3 weeks, and I thought I'd snap myself out of that. Now I think, well, what next? I am going to have a few more boxing fights. I think I've called out Stevie J. He said he's going to take me on at some stage. And Dane Swan, but he looks like he was pretty good. He was pretty handy with the gloves. So I'll have a few more boxing fights, but you can't do physical things forever. So I want to just concentrate on just doing little things daily and getting better and sort of helping others do the same.
You got a missus?
No.
So single
man, 44. If anyone's out there.
How do you find now that, like, it's interesting, just completely going off topic, but obviously you do a shitload of work on
it's good to get off
yourself.
top. That's a bit deep.
Yeah.
That's just
So you do a lot of work on yourself. You sort of, yeah, right. Yeah. And then you go out there and yeah, look, yeah.
When you haven't got a girlfriend, you got to do a bit of work.
You got to do a bit of work on yourself. How's it? How do you find it now? How do you find going out? And because obviously if you're naturally shy and you're naturally someone that didn't do public speaking, and now you're, you might have had great chat, but now you're out there and you're single.
Yeah, it's weird because I don't know if I'm an extrovert or an introvert. Like I feel like I'm okay in crowds, but like I think it may be just because I'm getting older and grumpier. I don't like going out much anymore. I'd much rather sit at home on a Saturday night and chill out than go out and party. So I don't know if it's just because I've got older, but I can't put. Everyone goes, "Are you an extrovert or introvert?" And I said, "I don't even know because I can be the life of the party. Or I was the life of the party back in the days. Oh, get Bakes to come out here. He's a bit of a laugh, and now it's like." Yeah, Bake's a bit grumpy. He's a bit grumpy. I don't know, but it's a weird one.
Do you find, and I'll ask the question again, because I've had a couple of, I treat a lot of patients as my job as a podiatrist, and a few of them are great blokes. They're in their late 30s, early 40s, even early 50s, and they're like, fuck, dating is just a different game to what it used to be.
Yeah.
How do you find it at the moment?
Yeah, like I am on a dating app, and but you talk to people, and I just
there's gonna be a few birds, mate, that probably listen to this. There
are a few girls in there. But I don't know, just the first date. It's like I don't know if it's just the last couple of years. I just can't be fuck out on that first date and having that awkward.
Do you give them do you give them the grit sort of analogy? Do you break down the GRIT when you?
No, you need grit to date me. I'll tell you that. But yeah, I just sort of I've concentrated on just working on myself. I thought if I build myself up and be, I don't know, someone that wants to date, I'll eventually attract someone. Eventually, I suppose. What did they say? It's like a lighthouse. I said to someone, I'm going to be like a lighthouse. I'm going to attract him. And said, no, lighthouses that keep people away from danger. I said, oh, fuck, that's what I've been doing. But yeah, I'm not really worried about dating at the moment, and just happy. Trying to just be happy, I suppose.
I guess the whole purpose of this podcast is to help other blokes that are listening, realize that you can have uncomfortable conversations, and also you can work through things that otherwise most men would see as taboo. Are there any things that I haven't asked you that you reckon are important to bring up for the blokes that are listening that you thought might be valuable as well?
I suppose just like the suicide. Like I heard Paddy the Baddie had a big win, and he brings up the suicide. I think it's like 9 a day, and most are men. So I think it's a bit taboo talking about that. You don't know whether you talk about it at live talks, age group, when do you start talking about it? But I think it's the biggest killer from 15 to 45 here in Australia for men. So it's obviously hard to talk about, but I think sharing the word and sharing my story is hopefully, well, I have had a lot of messages where people say, look, thanks, Bakes, I'm going through depression at the moment. Your talks help me in some way, but just the statistics with mental health, it's still a taboo topic to talk about, I suppose. And it's a lot more people are putting their hand up and realising when you do talk to someone, it is a big weight off your shoulders and getting something off your chest. Can
I flip it then in terms of, instead of being the person that has to reach out for help, how about if you're the person that gets reached out to? Yeah. How do you deal with that? Because you had a mate that said, fuck, my friend is suicidal, what the fuck do I do?
Yeah.
Have you had anyone reach out to you, and how do you navigate that situation? Because that's as hard a situation sometimes as any.
Yeah, well, I think because it's hard, because Justin Kaczynski, he's in the space, he does talks on mental health, and he's doing a lot of courses now, which I'm going to start looking into, but how to ask the right questions to find if someone's struggling, because most guys be like, how you going, mate? Yeah, fine. When they're not fine. So you don't really know unless you ask questions and find out if your mate is really okay, rather than just say, how you going? And then it's just, that's it. So I'm personally going to look into how to do that, ask the right questions, and learn how to look for signs, I suppose, because you see a lot of things on social media, for example. People look happy as Larry, a week before they take their own life, and you think this was a week ago and they're life of the party, and then all of a sudden they take their life a week later. So looking for signs and learning about it, I suppose, and getting the word out there and looking for signs.
And Bakes, is there anything that you reckon that you'd like to ask me on the flip side? Because I know that you're always packing a punch, so to speak. So, fucking, if you've got the floor, you can wipe me clean with it because I stitched you up earlier. So,
I don't know. I don't know what's when I at my talks I ask what's the biggest adversity you ever faced in your life and how you got through it. So I'm always trying to learn different ways, I suppose. If you can think one off the top of your head.
no, absolutely. My biggest adversity was probably it was like a regular adversity. So I had something called cluster headaches. I don't know if you know what they are, but another name for them are they're called suicide headaches. So they're very rare, painful headache. If they gave it a pain scale, they said that pregnancy was a 7 out of 10, kidney stones was 7.2, and this was a 9.7.
Geez, worse than popping out a kid.
Worse than popping out a kid, and I reckon I had about 700 episodes from about 16 years of age to 30. And I never spoke to anyone about it because I didn't want to be the person that brought anyone down. Yeah. And so my big thing was, in terms of adversity, was trying to, any time that this would come on, I'd get warning signs. And mate, 9.7 out of 10 is the worst fucking pain it is torture.
Imagine if it's worse than pregnancy.
It's fucked. And so,
what, you didn't see anyone, or you were just?
I saw people. They gave me some advice, and then didn't work. And then I sort of my mentality was push through it.
Yeah, like most guys
most
want to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the reason why I didn't ask for help is I didn't want mum and dad to freak out because I just didn't need them to have any more stress in their lives. And so my thing that I had to overcome was eventually enough was enough. I lived with a neurologist by pure luck.
Jeez.
And she was a French chick, and she was like, what the fuck is going on? Why are you going to your bedroom? Why are
so
you
were
pacing
hiding it as what you were actually hiding it. When you had the episode, you were going to...
Well, I couldn't be around anyone. It was because I just needed my own space to be able to crunch it out. Because if you go to bed, it just makes it worse. So you're pacing
so you didn't
around.
Want to show weakness?
I didn't want to show weakness. But I literally I used to have it sometimes when I was lifeguarding around the pool. I used to be a lifeguard when I was growing up. And so I used to put an ice pack on the back of my head because I used to find it used to constrict the blood vessels so I wouldn't feel like my head was pulsing. And eventually I seeked a bit of help, went to a neurologist. And at that stage then, I got an oxygen tank in my room. And so that was to help me if a headache came on. And I got like a sumatriptan injection, like an injection to take around with me to help abort the headache if it come on. But the rate of suicide ideation was 10 times higher with this. I never experienced it. I've never thought about it.
I went through a bit, so you would have been mad.
Nah. But just I guess it comes from
so eventually asking for help was
what helped, right? And then I said I got the help to help, I guess, stop it from getting worse. So if I had an injection, I could save it. But I mean, if I went to Europe and I was on a 30-day holiday, and these things are called cluster headaches, so it doesn't just happen once, it happens in clusters, so 1 or 2 a day for 20, 30, 40 days. 8 injections is sweet fuck all. So my first episode on Squeezing the Plums was around, I went down a real woo-woo pathway, psychedelic journeys, all that type of shit. Yeah, so I wanted to figure out why I was the way I was, why the headaches come about, why did I repress it for so long, and break down a little bit behind that. So my biggest adversity was working through that challenge, which is sort of what stemmed the podcast.
Do you recommend the psychedelics?
Yeah, I do.
So I had a mate talking about it last night. He went and lived with a tribe in Africa for a month, and he's like, mate, it was bloody far out experience. I'm not sure. I'll try it only 5 times.
Yeah. It's a fucking good saying. But yeah, I recommend it if you're inquisitive, but it comes down to who you're doing it with, like your mates, right? If you do it with a bunch of fuckheads that are just going to give you effectively shit, or they're going to give you sacred, like they call it sacred medicine or sacred like psychedelics, but they don't treat it with any respect. If you trip out or you have a problem, it's psychedelic, so it's screwing with your mind.
Actually, I did have one of those episodes in Bali.
Yeah. One of the mushy
shacks. It's like, I lost my shit.
Right, so you're going to flip.
Yeah.
But if you do it with like someone that's seen every possible change in a person's personality, they're going to be able to hold you safely whilst you go through whatever your journey is. So I found it really good. I went from trying to be the one that saves every circumstance, you know, being the fucking hero or protector or whatever it is, to just letting go and just going, hey, it is what it is. You know, just doing whatever I can.
This is taking a spin. We're talking about psychedelics.
Yeah.
Oh, mate. It's like Joe Rogan. You're like a Joe Rogan.
Yeah. So it's interesting. That's been an interesting adversity, because actually prior to doing any of that shit, I never touched a drug before. I used to work in nightclubs and bars as well. And like I was turned off all of that shit. And I'd sort of built this like good image around everyone in sort of that nightlife industry that I don't do any of the gear. Yeah. And then here I am going doing tripping balls doing mushrooms on it, you know, but it was obviously to try to help with my headaches. And now they've brought it into Melbourne. It's legalized now for psychiatrists to be able to administer mushrooms and MDMA. To be able to help people move through therapy quicker, because people have legitimately found, whether it's post-traumatic stress disorder or like any sort of trauma, that by tapping into that part of their soul, their body, they're able to move through stuff a lot quicker if it's guided through properly.
Shit, just haven't known about that a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But
But it's an interesting space. There's a lot out there. But you need good heads that are like not just saying just do whatever. Like it comes back down to the fundamentals, you know, coming back down to the fundamentals first, and then you're open to it rather than just like, oh, it's like, I don't want to have the tablet and take a fix. It's like, no, you got to be really willing to. We'll go back to Bali. Shit, I was in Bali this year. It's sensational. What a place. I love it. Mate, what's next for you? So I'll get off me now, and so what's next for Grit? What's next for you, and how can people find you if they want to get in touch with you and your business moving forward?
Yeah, so Grit, Stephen at billgrit.com.au, and yeah, I think I'll just keep doing the journey, keep talking, the public speaking, and just see where it takes me, I suppose. Like I've sort of written a children's book that I never thought I'd do. I want to get into more schools and push the effort beats talent. So I think I'm qualified to talk about that, and just going through adversity, just keep sharing the word and see where it goes. It's all happened so fast. I'm still spinning a little bit. I haven't got like an end goal yet. I still want to have another couple of boxing fights because I love a big challenge. So I'm probably going to have 2 more fights. I'll probably fight till I lose. Yeah, to be senseless, and that's it. And hang up the gloves. But after that, just keep sharing the word and trying to be happy, I suppose.
Thanks for coming on, mate.
Pleasure. Cheers, mate.